nobody there for Tucson. Rain will take it away with speed up the right wing side. Velarde tripped up, centered for Fagimo to the left circle. A shot, score! In his first game of the year, guess who? Lias Anderson makes it 3-2 with 1:56 to go.
We got help between the pipes. So David Hrenak from St. Cloud State gets the ELC 1 year because of his age and everything like that. Interesting story here is that the NCAA allowed players to come back for an extra season because of COVID. So what would have been kind of like left out in the cold, he earns a contract that he didn't have, that the Kings did not give him at the end of last season. Because he got to play another year. His stats very good. Led the team to the NCAA tournament again. 31 games, 2.26 GAA, 0.914 goals against. And so, every single year in college, under 7 goals against average and over 906 save percentage. And so for St. Cloud State, obviously they're a little bit of a powerhouse most years, but definitely quality there in between the pipes. And we've talked about it ad nauseum a little bit this season, that there hasn't really been a clear backup. You're giving me a look on the camera that I said something wrong. What's up?
No.
Okay.
So what I was doing is I was taking notes and jotting down. It's like he just adds to this like crop of. So there's Villalta, who's has the reins as the Reign starting goaltender, pun not intended there. Sparks, who was that veteran backup, but he's hurt again. So they just called up Lucas Parikh. And the reason I was making that face is they just yesterday brought back up Jacob Ingham. So now you have Parikh, Ingham, Hrenak, and obviously Lethaman is still down. And so I don't know how this is going to shake out. I honestly, I'm not sure. I can only assume that what's going on with Sparks is enough to maybe he could be out for a while, to where they're going to bring in another goaltender. So I don't know. I mean, I'll be totally honest and transparent here. I just don't know where the Reign, how the Kings see him fitting into the Reign, right? Because
they didn't see him fitting in last year, and he earned it again this year.
He did. But so they just yesterday, Jacob Ingham is up. Lucas Parikh was already up. I want to see what happens tomorrow. So they play an early game tomorrow. Perhaps we'll get some hint there. Villalta, Villalta's playing every game right now. He played the back-to-back. Maybe they're going to give him a rest here because they got a couple of games. They play tomorrow, and then they play again on Friday. I want to say Friday and Saturday. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know they play Saturday. I believe it's Friday and Saturday too.
Yeah, they play a doubleheader against Colorado, I think.
So they may be looking at an opportunity to give Villalta a little bit of a puff here and not even dress him, right? And totally just not even worry about it and dress Parikh and Ingham or Hrenak or however. I'm very curious to see how he fits in the whole scenario that they have going on right now.
Yeah,
I don't know that you see it, but there's a lot of goalies right now, and I know we've talked about it as Kings fans, like it's not a position of strength in the organization. There's a lot of them, but I don't know who you're hanging your hat on.
Yeah, it's not a position of strength because you saw Yannetti say that we were up into the 20s for a certain player, and that player, now has been pretty much confirmed by shadow government that it was Jesper Wallstedt, the premier goalie out of Sweden, who I thought was reasonable for their top 10 pick. And so, because I thought that was their weakest need there. I know you're not a big fan of the first round goalies, but if you look at last playoffs, the last 4 goalies in the tournament were all first round goalies. And so I think the stigma isn't as bad as it used to be, just because there's the amount of teams have full goalie coaches now. Where before it was just kind of, hey, let's throw you out there and I hope you survive. Now they have full staffs dedicated to that stuff. But to bring it back to the Reign is that all the other goalies in the system behind Villalta, and even Villalta to a little bit, has been up and down a little bit, had his down spots this year, which is fine because he's been getting peppered with only over 30 plus shots a game, having to do a lot of these back to back. So I get it. but they haven't had anybody else step up. Parikh has had a couple games and then disasters. Ingham a couple games and then disasters. If you look at Hrenak's stats, like they've been consistent his entire collegiate career. I know NCAA isn't the AHL, but St. Cloud State ain't no slouch, and they play good teams all the time. He flat out carried them last season. And so I'm looking at it like, okay, well, this guy's riding high off of confidence. He just earned this ELC. Let's give him some games down the stretch. I mean, I assume Villalta is going to get every game in the playoffs, but, let's rest him. The rain are in. So I don't know how much seeding affects this tournament besides home games, but ultimately, I don't want Faber or not Faber, but Villalta to speak doing back-to-backs for the rest of the season and have weak legs going into the dance.
So I think that's what it is. And listen, Villalta's a starter, right? For the important games as we go here on out. And I agree, like he is the reign starter right now, but I don't know that he's necessarily the guy that's the top prospect of the bunch. Does that make sense? You see what I'm getting at there? Like, I don't know.
So who has the highest ceiling? I mean, he hasn't,
right.
So I think that they're going to take some stabs. I know we talked to Wheeler a little bit way earlier in the season, said there's really no first round, or he would say even hard pressed to find a second round talent in this year's draft. And then next year is just loaded with other positions and not goalie as well. So, I mean, I know Quick was a third rounder, but you're going to have to take a couple stabs. And I'm fine with, because the cover is so deep everywhere else. We've said this already. I'm fine with them taking one stab a year until they get some guy that just really takes the ring. Because you have the other guy out of Finland as well, Hugo Markkinen, which I believe they took in the fourth round. And so I'm fine with them taking dart throws, because it seems that the goalie position right now for the Kings is a bunch of dart throws. And so, because even Cal Peterson, all the way up to the Kings level, hasn't just full on taken the reins away from Jonathan Quick. And it seems like that's trickling down to where nobody's just grabbing the pipes by the horns, so to speak, and just earning the spot. I know it's Villalta's spot to lose as of now, but going into camp next season, I think it's still fair game for anybody.
So do I. And you know what, though? Like, I'm okay taking that spot, like, or that shot in the draft, if you will. But when you look at Villalta, Parikh, Ingham, Letherman, Hrenak, you mentioned the Finn, like, I wouldn't be surprised if one of these guys, whether it's Parikh or Ingham or whoever, one of these guys evolves into a pretty good goaltender and like an NHL goalie. So, because it's such a difficult position, I think, to project and to predict. So I'm okay with what the Kings have right now. And I was just looking at, you mentioned the seeding. So they're 6 points back of Stockton, and Stockton has a game in hand. I think that first in the Pacific gets a bye, and that first, they don't have to play that first round. So that does matter, but I don't think they're catching Stockton. Okay. That said, they're 6 points up with 2 games in hand on Colorado. So they're not losing second. So really they're finishing second in this division. You could find days here to give Villalta time off and give, like you mentioned, give Hrenak a game or two and see what he looks like at this level and start to mix in some other guys, because I think they're probably pretty comfortable in second place right now. So with a dozen games left, 13 games left, they got 3 games in 4 days coming up. Villalta should probably only play one of them. He's played a ton of hockey here. Get him an extra puff, because he's going to see the lion's share as they get to playoffs. So